All right, welcome to the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. I'm your man, Big Jack. This is where we prove we are stronger together, that if each one would reach one, we can all grow and glow. And today is another beautiful day, another opportunity to get here and meet new people. And it happened to be the Memorial Day weekend. So we know it's Memorial Day weekend. And I know that a lot of you might have plans and already ready to do your cookouts and get together and do all the other things that you would do for Memorial Day. But it's really important for me to try to share with you the differences between the days, especially being a military veteran, an Army vet. And I just wanted to share this little bit of information with you. So there are 3 days that's been set aside, three main days that's been set aside for the military, if you want to look at it that way. And the first one, I'm just going to throw it out there and I put it up there. It's Armed Forces Day. So the third Saturday in May is the Armed Forces Day, and it's honoring the current members of the U.S. military, those who are actively serving in any branch. Those are the days that's set aside for them. And then we also got Veterans Day. So we know November 11th honors the U.S. military veterans, both living and deceased, with a focus on those who serve and are still alive. So I'm a veteran. So when Veterans Day come, that's when maybe restaurants will give a discount and allow you to go and to eat and honor the vets that have served their country, that's still alive, and those who have passed. And then we have Memorial Day. And this is the weekend that we're in now. It's the last Monday of the month of May, which we know. And it honors the military personnel who died in service to their country, especially for those who died in battle or from the wounds sustained in combat. So those are the three big days that's been set aside. So we know we had Armed Forces Day, we had Veterans Day, and Memorial Day. So those are the things I want you to really think about when you're celebrating or cookout or partying or whatever you're going to be doing this weekend. Just taking a day of rest. Always remember that someone out there lost their life for that day of rest that you're getting. They lost their life in action while they were trying to serve our country. So I just wanted to make sure and just put it out there so that we can all say, hey, now I know the differences between the Armed Forces Day, the Veterans Day, and Memorial Day. And I also want to give an honor or tribute to my grandfather, who did die in the Vietnam War. He was only 3 weeks away from coming home, and when he was ambushed, and he didn't make it. So those are the things that I think about on this day and this weekend, because of the fact that you do have someone who just didn't make it. So again, it's the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. Just trying to throw a little educational tidbits out there for those who didn't know, and if you did know, that's great. And now we can use that. But with all of that being said, I got some wonderful guests that's going to be on the show with me today. I'm super excited about them all, and I just want to make sure that we honor those who should be honored for this weekend that we're in. But then at the same time, we want to bring our guests on the stage. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring my guests up on the stage, and we're going to get going with the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. So here we go. All right, welcome to the show, Miss Darlene Truman. How you doing, man?
I'm
I got
good.
you.
I'm
All
good.
right.
Good to be here.
Oh, it's good having you here. So this is the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. We know it's an opportunity to we try to prove that we are stronger together. You know, they say if each one could just reach one, we can all grow and glow. And I'm so glad that you're on the stage with me today. I know there's some people that's going to be in the comments section, going to be in the chat, and we're going to make sure we recognize them. So I'm seeing Kamaria Jackson is out there already, Denise Jackson, Sharon Jackson. So right now it's a family affair. So I'm super happy for all of them that's out there. And so we have you on the stage, and I'm super excited about that. So for those who don't know you, Miss Darlene, can you please introduce yourself and tell us who you are?
Okay, well, let's see. I'm a lot older than Bill, but so I would have a longer history. I have I've had a small business. I did real estate closings for 20 years. So I, in the community of Jefferson County, I knew lots of attorneys and a lot of the magistrates, the judges, because of the work I had done. In 2008, I had as if you remember, 2008, there was a economic downturn, especially in real estate. So I had an economic retirement and walked away from my business because I had it was the market was just so bad that I didn't see how I could continue to make payroll for 9 people. So I quit doing that, and then I needed something to do. So I was volunteering at the community foundation and walked by the CASA office. And I had been doing volunteer work. I was a victim advocate for the Jefferson County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and that was interesting work. But I saw the CASA sign, so I went in and talked to Sean Valentine, who was there at the time. And she explained to me that what a CASA did, it was a court-appointed victim advocate for children. And I thought, well, that sounds like something I could do. So I went through, there's a training process you go through, and I did that. That was, by the time they had a training that worked out schedule-wise, it was 2011. And that's when I started. And so the idea is you meet the children who have been removed from their homes because of abuse or neglect by the court system, and so your job is to advocate for them. So at that time, there were probably only 20 of us that were victim advocates for the system. And it was very interesting work because you met the biological parents, you met the foster parents, you met the child. You did that. You were required to see them at least once a month, and then you go to all the court hearings. You met the defense attorneys for the parents. You met the prosecuting attorneys. You met with any kind of. Sometimes there would be a child psychologist. Sometimes there would be all sorts of different people that you would meet on the team. And then you go to court and you make a report to the judge and try to explain to the judge your perspective of where the child was, how the child was doing, if the child was old enough to have conversations, how they felt. So it was kind of a personal thing, and you'd write these reports, and they would go to the judge, and you go to the hearings, and so that was when I started. They said, "Oh, it's about 6 months or maybe a year." My experience was that it was a lot longer than that for most of the cases that I was involved in. And some of the parents, the biological parents, were sometimes you would meet only the mother, or sometimes there would be, you would almost, there were many children and many adults, some of who were related to each other and some of who weren't. It was confusing. So there could be 3 or 4 adults and maybe 5 children.
Right, gotcha.
Okay.
Wow, yeah. All right. So it sounds like the training is real in depth. Is it a long training, or how?
It was the training was good. It's not at that time. It's not as in depth as it is now, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, but at that time it was you went to classes like 4 hours a day it was an extensive thing, but there was no way that you could come to understand some of the things you would see.
Right. So it didn't, in a sense, didn't prepare you for some of the things you were going to face because it sounds like, I'm just listening to what you're saying, all the different lawyers and judges and parents and children. There's a lot of people that's crossing your path, and you're volunteering. And so that makes it even tougher. Like, wait a minute, I'm volunteering for this. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yes,
So yeah,
yes.
that's well. Thank you for being volunteering and for your work into that. Um, and so, did you have any background? I mean, I know you said you were. I guess you did have some with as a victim crisis or crisis. So you
Hmm.
had some background, and that was what sent you that way. All right. So, and that's, I guess that's cool. That's really, it's good. It's good that you walk that path, but at the same time, it's sad that you have to walk that path
Yes.
because of all the stuff that you go through, and especially when you're dealing with children.
Yes, and these are the true victims. They have no say in what has happened to them. The children that were old enough to communicate, because some of the children were infants, some of the children were. The oldest one I think I had was 14. And so
Okay.
there's a vast difference in their experience. Some of these children, the lucky children, were the ones that were in and out of the system one time and one time only.
Mm,
But there was a case I had that this person had been, since I believe the age of 2 up until 14, had been in and out of the system every other year, in
right.
and out,
Wow.
in and out. And this never was there a resolution, obviously, because he kept coming back through the system again.
Mm,
And interestingly enough, I would say to the lawyer at that time, why don't you mention this to the court? And he said, well, I can't tell them. I said, why can't you mention that? He said, because all these cases are separate, and so they don't intersect. And I
oh,
thought to myself, well, I give a report to the court, and I'm not bound by any of these kind of
right,
rules.
right, right,
And so I mentioned it to the judge that this was the whatever. I knew it had the number of cases, the case number. I mean, so he was presented with this information, so he had to hear it or know about it. And but I was the only one that could say it.
right, right. Well, and that's I guess it's good to have you in that position because of the fact that sometimes you're right. The lawyers might be bound by certain things they can bring into evidence, and yeah, like I say, by you not being bound to that, and that's huge. So, so do all kids receive I guess, a CASA worker?
No. So
Okay.
interestingly enough, my husband, he became a volunteer after I came home one day and said, the next time I go to this particular place, because there's confidentiality rules.
Mm,
So he was not uh, Acosta, so he couldn't know where I was.
gotcha.
And it was a potentially dangerous situation. And so I told him, if you go to this Pizza Hut and just sit there, I will text you if I should need help. And
Gotcha.
so then he decided to take the training so that he could be closer if
Hey,
necessary.
hey,
So he did not find the work in the field to be to his skill sets.
right.
So what he does still to this day, he does administrate the admin work. So he does he gets the petitions from the court and puts them into their system. So I
Okay.
asked him before, as when I knew I was coming on, could you give me some rough numbers? And in the three counties, that's Berkeley, Jefferson, and Morgan County, there's approximately 945 kids
Okay.
active in the system now.
Mm.
There are 212 assigned to CASA,
Oh wow. Wow.
and there are 79 volunteers in
Right.
CASA.
Gotcha.
So that gives you an idea of the need.
Right. Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's yeah. And he says you're saying that at least one third or like 1/3 are covered, so 66% are not covered by
Exactly.
anybody right now. And even as you said earlier, they don't even have a voice if they're not covered. No one's speaking up on their behalf. So,
No.
yeah. So that yeah that puts it in perspective right there. That makes it definitely sounds different and it is different right now.
Yes.
So
Of course,
and
the
go ahead.
children are assigned a guardian ad litem, which is a legal representative, but that's a whole different perspective.
But I remember because I'm, and we're talking in West Virginia. So, and I'm in the area you said that Eastern Panhandle area is where you're looking at in West Virginia. And I remember when I was a foster parent, and we were going through, we're volunteer to be a foster parent. You're going through the process of training and all. And there was only like maybe 3 or 4 lawyers.
Right.
Yeah, and we talked about that in the last show where there's got 4 lawyers and they're rotating around who's the guardian. This I'm the guardian, I'm the guardian. Either I'm for the parents or I'm for the state. They're flipping around.
Yep.
And so if you only got 4 and you're talking about almost 800 kids, then that means each one of them have 200 kids.
Right, and they
that
don't
they're
know.
the guardian to lie them on. So so when you're talking, the numbers are still not in the favor of the kid because it's just now a case. It just becomes the next case or the next case, and it gets confusing, especially when we were going through the meetings and they were trying to figure out if I'm the guardian or you're the guardian, who's the guardian, and that's so it's good to have the CASA worker. So I remember that. I do remember that.
Oh,
so, Ms. Darlene, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we have another guest we're going to bring on the stage. So if you can stay tuned, and those are out there, and I see Captain Johnson in the house. Thank you, Sharon Jackson, Kamaria Jackson, Denise Jackson, Anisi Jackson, all of y'all, and thank you for being on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with Miss Darlene, and then we're going to bring another guest up on the stage. So we'll be right back on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. Give me 1 second, and we'll get you up there. Thank you.
Get ready for the ultimate live experience. Join us on stage where music, poetry, and comedy collide in a night to remember. Top musicians, spoken word artists, and comedians come together for a unique and unforgettable show. From soulful melodies to side-splitting jokes, this jam-packed event has it all. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as we bring you the best of the best in this one-of-a-kind performance. Are you ready for the next We Be Jammin' Live?
All right, welcome back to the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. We now have Miss Carrie on the stage with us. She's getting herself together. Hello, Carrie. How you doing?
Hi. I am so sorry, but I am not getting any sound.
Oh, you're not hearing? Okay.
I had sound during the
sometimes
commercial.
okay. It's hard to tell. So we're gonna let you come out and come back in, and maybe that'll help. And if you're not hearing me, then you won't even know what I just said. So, so she'll go out and come back in. But we got Carrie, and she was recommended by you, Darlene, to come on the show. So we'll get her back on once she get her stuff together. So sometimes when you come on the show, especially you setting up your links, it's and you would have to come out completely and come back on, and then it'll work. So, but anyway, we'll get her back on the stage as soon as she comes back into the studio. So, Darlene, so just I guess you said you was doing it, and I think you was doing it for a while. So have you ever fostered or adopted, or you just on the CASA side?
Just on the CASA side. I thought about it. There are some I just wanted to take home with me. Some of the kids were just so heartbreaking. And I also thought that my talents and skills and my the place I was in my life, I was not able to take in a child. I knew that I couldn't foster because you have to give them back. And I thought that would break my heart. I
Right.
have a friend who fostered 39 children, and I just couldn't do it.
Right.
You know, everybody has something they could do. Well, I just couldn't, and I admired you guys so much because you were great. But I couldn't do it.
Yeah, we
Never.
talk about that, and I do. I talk about it. It's the one of the hardest things about the fostering when you're fostering anybody is the when they leave,
Oh my.
because the case ends right there. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's over. You don't get to find out how the story ended. You don't get to know anything about it, and it's just over. And that's that is one of the downsides to it. Because you're right. It's like you don't even sometimes you don't trust that the situation is better. You just
Right.
know that whatever they did, the court said that, or whoever said it's not even about the court, but whoever said they can go back, and then it's over, and it's like, oh wow, okay, and they could be in your house. So I got a poll going up right now, and it's saying the poll was what is the average number of months children in foster care typically spend in the system. So that's the poll I got going right now. So it's the average number of months, and right now we're looking at the numbers are the suggestions are 0 to 5 months, 5 to 10 months, 10 to 20 months, or 20 plus months. So
20
those are the
plus.
four. Yeah. So Darlene has already gave it away. So if you didn't know, it's all right. So it
Sorry.
is 20 plus months that a child is in. The average number of months that a child is in foster care. So once they go in the system, it's normally 20 plus months before their case is, I don't say settled. So just imagine if you're a foster parent, that child could be with you for the 20 plus months. So it's almost like, we've had kids in school. We've had them in daycare. We watched them, grow up. We, going through the potty training stages and going. So we've seen that. We've seen kids take their first steps and all of those things that, but it was, yeah. So I understand what you were saying about the having to give them back, or even not, watching them walk out the door, and knowing that as far as you're concerned, that chapter is over in their life. So I had a person ask me, has any of the kids ever tried to reach back out to you, to us? And I have never experienced that. Not one kid has ever, that I know of, that tried to reach or try to find us or whatever. So, but other than that, we continue to do what we do, and it was a purpose and a time in our life that we needed to do, and actually walk through that walk. And I wouldn't change anything, but at the same time, yes, it gets hard once they walk out, especially when you're sitting in the courts, or you might have multiple kids. Because there was times that we had more than, and they're not. So I'm in court for one kid, but you're hearing about another kid, so it's like all that back and forth. So that was, that was a challenging time. So, but my wife, she did a good job. She was super strong, and she was very, she was well more, I would say she was more put together than I would as far as the information and notes and all of that. So it made it easy for me to just go into court and represent, because she sent me with a lot of good notes. Make sure you say this, make sure you say that. Like, I got it, I got you.
Yeah,
And,
she was amazing. She was
right.
amazing. I mean, I don't know. I think you're around Carmel. You were just wonderful. I was listening to you, Bill, last week or the week before, I don't remember. And you were talking about the intrusion into your home.
Yes.
And being a CASA, I felt that I was very cognitive of it, and also the only way out is through, and so there was value to it, because I could go into the court and say I have been in these people's home
Right.
every month for X number of years. And I can tell you, I am the only person that has been with this particular case from the beginning until today. So if you want to ask something, None
Yeah.
of the attorneys were here in the beginning that are here now. The judge is different.
Right.
The DHHR worker is different. I'm the only one that's still standing. So,
No,
you know,
no, and no, and if I don't think I wasn't trying to come across wrong. I was
oh
more saying that
no,
in your, because there's a lot of things that a foster parent goes through
has to do, yeah.
that a actual biological parent don't have to go through. And I
Right.
like, if you put them through the stuff that we had to go through, it would be
Hope they didn't
totally
have
different.
children.
Yeah, it'd be totally different. Yeah, you might not have as many cases, because we had to, like I say, we had to take CPR classes. We had to do background checks. We had to make sure our credit was good. They
Yeah.
checked the plumbing in our house to make sure we had hot water. That the kid had their own bedroom and their own
Yeah.
bed, their own
Yeah.
this. It's a lot more that goes into it just to be a foster parent. And then and I hear people, and they do say it, well, they pay you to do it. I think, no, that is for the kid. That
Yeah.
money goes to the kid to make sure that they have food and clothing and all of that stuff that
Yeah.
needs to be done. That's what, and even like I say, we live in the Eastern, at that time we was in the Eastern Panhandle. So we had to get permission just to leave the state, but you couldn't go nowhere without leaving the state. You couldn't go to other parts of the state without leaving the state. So you had to get that permission and go through the proper channels and do all the right things because
Oh
they're
yeah.
kids. And because they're kids, you wanted to make sure that that they had a kid's life. What can I provide you? We're going to go to amusement park. We're going to go to this. We're going to do different things. Go to the museums. You had to leave the state, and because of that, you had to get those permissions because we was real clear. We knew it. That's not your child. That does belong to somebody else. And then you had to keep them safe because they wasn't in the system because for nothing. So now you got to watch out for the birth parents.
Oh yeah.
And grandparents and all. It was oh yeah, it gets different. It
Oh
gets
yeah.
different fast. Yeah.
Yeah, and people don't know. I mean, sometimes you get a child and it doesn't have clothes. I
Oh
mean,
well.
it's not like they show up with a suitcase of they show up sometimes without diapers.
Right. Yeah, and the thing is, and I talked about it in the last show. If they're not your first placement, you don't get the stipend. So it's like we've been to the WalMarts or whatever to get cribs and clothes and all these other things because a kid comes to us and we're not the first placement and they come to you with nothing, and that's where that's but that's your kid. And that's how you look at it right now. So I'm seeing some comments going in. I see Gen X Effect is in the house. What's up, Gen X? Kamaria Jackson, and that pays for the very basic needs, and that's what it is, and that's what that money is for. They try to actually have fun and provide enrichment, and that's the whole thing. So a foster parent is and that's what they're trying to do, and don't be the second family, and that's what she was saying. So if you are the second family, you get whatever the first family bought, but especially when you're dealing with younger kids, because they'll come to you and they've already outgrown the clothes that they, so now you're looking in a bag and there's a whole bunch of 2-month-old clothes and they're like 8 months old. And like, what are we doing with this? But it's all good. Hey, Source, how you doing? And thank you for being on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. So, Ms. Darlene, and I know we had Carrie's supposed to be on, and I hope she's working her things out, and she'll get here. We ain't worried about that. She's going to get here. But so we know the training, we know that this. So are you still doing CASA work?
No, I did that for about 7 years, and then I was at another meeting through CASA, and there was a speaker that talked about a better intervention program. And I had been, as I said, 7 years at CASA, and I thought, man, this is an opportunity to maybe change. If one baby daddy could not beat up, abuse one baby mama, there might be 5 children that would be positively affected. So it seemed that was a step that for me would be another step to take at that time. And so that's what I did. My husband, again, went along, not happy about that one either, but he went along with me for 5 years, and we did a batter intervention program, which is involved, these individuals are court ordered to come to meetings once a week for an hour and a half for 32 weeks.
Mm.
And so the program that we had, there were 32 different lessons, and it was a group. So men would come and men would go. There was also a women's group, but they were separate. So so we had at least 30 men sometimes at a time in the same room, and talking about. So I would start with, so what is abuse? Let's define abuse. What is it? You know, and so one of the techniques we used was to read the court orders, the individuals that were in there, just the one line that described some of the things that had happened, and I would ask the group, is that abuse?
Right.
And interestingly enough, sooner or later, somebody would realize that I was talking about them.
Right. Yeah.
But the other men would always say, "Oh, that's awful. That's a terrible thing to do." And so the thing that was good about it was, it wasn't me, it was the other men telling each other,
right.
basically, that's not cool. That's not right. You know? So
No,
it was
yeah. Go ahead.
interesting.
I'm listening. So, and you mentioned that there's a program, I guess, for men, and then there's a program for women, and it's 32 weeks long that they have to come, and that's so once a week for 32 weeks. And I like the idea of what you said as far as going around the room, because I guess eventually your case comes up, and you've been that person that said how bad everybody else's is until yours come up, and it's like, well, that wasn't that bad. Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Then they would explain why it wasn't bad, and of course, the room could turn on you. I mean, if you weren't careful as a facilitator, and they would say, "Oh no, that was an okay thing to do," for example.
Right.
So you had to be careful and be, but the real gold and the real growth was when people, like what you're doing here, talk to each other and help each other out of the place they're at.
Right. Got you. No, that's good. And what was, again, can you tell me what was the name of that program?
It was called Community Alternatives to Violence.
Okay. All right. Because I know one of the things I learned and during the foster care time in my life, that two adults fussing, arguing with the child in the room could be considered abuse.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that was the whole thing where, like, it's just two adults having a full out argument, and it could be over finances, it could be over whatever. But if the child is in the room, that can start a case. That could start something, where people saying that child shouldn't have been exposed to that. And a lot of people don't catch that. They miss that. It's no different, so many different things that you don't think of as abuse to the kid, because we had a child, and I said, I don't say out the names and things like that, but I remember having a young kid, and the screaming he did every night. I mean, it was like you could tell he was exposed to a lot of something that was like horrifying to him, because he continued to scream. And it's like, man, and those are the things that we would jot down. Those are things we would write down as foster parents to pass to the CASA worker, to pass to the caseworker, to pass to the guardian ad litem, to say, hey, this is what we're noticing. This kid screams, I mean, like crazy at night. And it was like, it was a pattern. It's like every night, this is how I go to sleep. Like some people put on nice soft music to go to sleep. This kid was hearing some fussing and screaming, and it was sad. It really was sad, because as the case kept going and I got to hear more about it, I'm like, wow, yeah, I can see. And that's, what we try to bring to light as well, because again, I know the number one goal is unification or reunification with the birth family, but anyway.
Sometimes that's really not in the best interest of the child.
And that's the big thing right there, the best interest of the child.
Right.
And one of the things we learned, was that kids didn't have rights. They didn't, it took years before they even got rights. So, and that was one of the things that disturbed me, because like you said, 66% don't even have anyone speaking for them, not even representing them. They're representing them in court, but no one's coming to visit other than the caseworker. But then if we look at the number of caseworkers, it's the same, 200 kids,
That's right.
200 and something kids per caseworker. And by the time they get back to you, how much has went around.
They don't even remember.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and that was, I think, where a lot of our issue were as foster parents was the fact that we were active and we wanted our team to be active. So if this kid's in our house and if I call you, and we understand, but it can't go weeks and months before you call us back. We're not calling you just because we feel like talking. We're calling you because there's something we need an answer right away. And so if they came through our house, they already knew this is what we're expecting. And we had good workers. We had good workers. And but anyway, so it's sad that we even have this conversation, but we do know that it is National Foster Care Month, and the month is wrapping up. But because the month is wrapping up, don't mean we should forget about there's kids that's out there, and the kids are always going to need someone to look out for them. Because I was looking at in the national average, and like you was talking about some of the numbers in the national average, and each year about 20,000 kids age out. So they age out of the system without being adopted.
And a third of those die.
Wow. Yeah. Die. I did not know that. Yeah. Wow.
Statistics. I mean, because they don't have a base, they don't have any wherewithal, they don't have any financial knowledge, and they become victimized, they become depressed. It's just horrible. And of course, a lot of programs are not being funded anymore. So it's really challenging for these kids. It's really bad. A child that ages out is it's a sad thing. There's a book called The Language of Flowers that I thought really described it from a child's perspective. Because it's hard to understand why a foster child, for example, would act out against these people who are being kind and nice, right? But they do. But that's only because of the things they've been through that you don't even know.
Yeah. And that was the whole thing we were saying, and I've said that in the last show because we had Delbert Pope on, and he was talking, and he has a program now for the ones after they age out, which is good that they have something in place. So it's starting to move in a positive direction. But it gets tough. So I was looking at, like I say, I was saying mental health. Over 80% of the children in foster care have developed emotional or behavioral problems. And one of the things I mentioned in the last show, almost what you just said now, was that I'll say every placement that they go to, those kids age probably 4 to 5 years, every placement. So, and it is different, because like I say, if you talk about one that's being moved around every month they're going to someone else. And because of that, that means, okay, I'm with you this month, I'm 4, next month I'm 8, the month after that I'm 12. So, and then we go and try to, because every home they go to, they got to learn new rules. They got to learn, this is my rules, this is what my lifestyle, this is this and that. And so it can get weird for a kid because they are kids and they want to be a kid and they're going to do kid things. And when you have a house that has other kids in it, or a lot of foster parents might have their own biological kids, you try not to pick favorites, but it's like it happens, and that's the unfortunate part as well too, because now that kid feels you don't love me or you don't care about me because you got your own kids, you got this. And it's like, no, we're trying to make it even across the board. But
sometimes you don't like it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, so, but with that being said, the foster kids almost get it better because the discipline is different, and you know, some things that we just can't do because you're a foster kid. You know, you can't just go in there and act in. And that's another thing that people that might be in the chat, and I want to make sure that you understood. If you are trying to foster or want to foster, those are not your kids. They belong to someone. Those are someone else's kids that you're just watching for a little while. And because of that, you can't go in there with your own ways, because all of a sudden you're going to have a case. You're going to have a case on you because you're in there picking on these foster kids. So, you know, and that was a big one, because we didn't have that problem. I don't think we ever had that problem while we was in the foster system. But we had a list of what we would accept and what we wouldn't, because you have to know you have to know what you are able to do. Right. And one of the big things was not knowing. I didn't know about the CASA program. We didn't know that until we got into the program and you came walking through our door. So that's how we knew about that. But definitely with the caseworkers, we was more like, we understand you got a whole bunch of kids, but we got one in our house, and we want to. And I think that's what Kamaria just said too, that we have one in our house that we're taking care of, and we want you to respond like you want us to respond. And that was a big thing, because if they called you and we took 2 months to respond, we would hear about it. But, you know, and that was one of the big things. And I don't know why, but it's a lot. It's a lot of work to go into it. And I'm taking my hat off to you, because I know that you was a CASA worker, and it was volunteering for all the stuff that you said you had to go through. But now, how many kids have you had as a CASA worker? Jeez. You know, do you remember the numbers? Wow.
No, there was, let me see, at one time there was a group there were 5 of them. They ended up, some of them were biologically related and some of them were not, but they ended up in one home. Oh. It was like, I used to tell the foster mom, who ended up adopting all of them.
Oh, wow.
That this was like a box of puppies, because they were, I think one of them out of the 5 wasn't in diapers. They were all that close in age. And that was I still keep in touch and have watched these. They're graduating from high school now.
Yeah, wow.
And you know, so I really don't know the number. I mean, it's been a range of children. Sometimes just one child. I maybe would have 4 different cases at a time. Some cases would have one child, maybe another one would have 5 children, and another one would have 2. And so it was kind of all over the place. And the age ranges was everything from infants to, like I said, the 14-year-old was and that was the most challenging, because the older children, nobody wants.
Right, yeah.
They're not cute. I mean, I'm sorry, but very few 14-year-olds are that adorable.
No. No, and you're absolutely right. I mean, and you know, we're looking at the race of the kid, the sex of the kid.
Yeah.
If there's any type of if they have any type of disabilities or whatever, it gets
violence.
Hard. Yeah, violence. If they got any,
and the bigger children are able to inflict physical problems. I mean, they actually, this one, the 14-year-old was hitting the foster mom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there was a lot of physicality to that. And it was a very sad thing. And this was the child that had been in and out of the system since he was 2.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
And so he had, as you said, had aged so much, but not emotionally. He was so hurt, because he was sure he was going to get thrown back in again, because it had happened so many times. Right. Yeah. And his biological, I don't think, he never knew his father. And the mother was not really reliable at all. And it was just a very sad thing, because I don't know, he ended up going to another state. And so therefore he was out of the system. That case is still not closed.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that
I have no idea what happened to him.
Wow. So I want to, Darlene, real quick, I want to recognize some of the people that's in the chat. And I see Dapper PH is here. And hey, Dapper, I did get your email. I just want to share that with you. And I responded to the email. So thank you for that. Els Endeavor's in the house. And thank you. It says, and sometimes the foster homes they go to aren't stable. 100%. And we'll talk about that when we come back, Els. You're 100%. And she's, Els also said, didn't know it was 1/3. So yeah, only 1/3 have actual coastal workers with them. So we, Kamaria Jackson, the source, Nisi Jackson, I know was here, Captain Johnson, Gen X, and thanks for being here, Sharon Jackson, and everyone the ones, there's different people that's here that haven't commented. That's the only way I can't say if they're here or not. So we're gonna take a quick break and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk some more with Miss Darlene Truman. And so give me 1 second and we'll be right back on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show.
Get ready for the ultimate live experience. Join us on stage where music, poetry, and comedy collide in a night to remember. Top musicians, spoken word artists, and comedians come together for a unique and unforgettable show. From soulful melodies to side-splitting jokes, this jam-packed event has it all. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as we bring you the best of the best in this one-of-a-kind performance. Are you ready for the next We Be Jammin' Live?
All right, welcome back to the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. Miss Darlene with me, and a comment was made before we went on break, and it says that, and sometimes the foster homes they go to aren't stable. So, have you ever ran into a situation where the home was not a good fit for the kid?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, okay.
Absolutely. And luckily enough, the first time it happened, the DHHR worker, we both visited the same place at the same time. And it was the first time we had met this foster family and the first time we had met this child. And we both walked out of it and looked at each other. And the first time we had really worked together. So we really didn't know each other. But we walked out of that particular place and said, I looked at her and she looked at me. I said, that's got to change. And she's like, yes. And I'm like, oh, thank God, because if she would not, she was the person that had the authority to move the child.
Okay.
I didn't. All I can do is recommend. So luckily that child was moved within the week.
All right. Wow.
It was a bad fit. And it was an obvious bad fit for both of us just walking into that environment. And yes, there's been more than one that has happened. And from all I can do is recommend, but I had been doing it enough and had a relationship with DHHR. I had gone and spoken to them, not about a specific case, but just in general. And so therefore I had a little bit of a reputation of, some street cred, maybe this woman knows what she's talking about. And so they would, if I would suggest, maybe we could, I'm wondering if we could maybe, there's a problem here. Maybe we could solve that problem by just moving this, because this is, so it worked out. And I was, from my perspective, able to get some of these. Most of the foster parents were wonderful. And sometimes it wasn't a good fit, and sometimes you wondered why they were doing it because they didn't seem to be paying attention to the things they should have been. But yes, I did run into that.
Okay, and I guess what's troubling me right now when you made the comment was that it was the caseworker's first time meeting those foster parents. So is that something that you experienced where, say, someone else placed the family and then the caseworker go meet the family? And that, okay, so yeah, that's a little troubling when you hear it, because you would think that the caseworker, this child, yeah. So yeah.
It was chaotic in the beginning, especially. So there are emergency petitions. So then it's emergency. So they take the child and call somebody, and then they've got their list, and they're going through their list, and they're trying to find somebody at 2 a.m. They find somebody, and then maybe time, I don't know how much time went by on their side, but it might not be that next day. It might be a couple of days before they get around to going back and saying what's going on. And again, some of the DHHR workers were fresh out of college.
Yes.
They were not experienced, and they were overwhelmed with handed a whole bunch of files.
We remember that.
It's a terrible, unfortunately, it's still understaffed and underpaid work, and very hard. And no, they didn't always know what had happened.
No, and you're right. So just to put a little perspective on it, and I know Miss Darlene would know better than I would, but imagine a kid getting put in the system on a Friday. The courts are closed on Saturday and Sunday. The DHHR on-call person would try their best over the weekend to find somebody for this kid. And when they do, they just place them over the weekend. And then you show up to work on Monday and you have a new case on your desk that happened over the weekend. And now you're going to go figure out what happened. So, and as Kamaria Jackson just made the comment, that 2 a.m. phone call that the worker are getting, saying, or the foster family is getting, saying, hey, we got this kid. We don't know anything about him. We don't have a file yet. We don't even have a caseworker yet. We just need a place for them to sleep. And can they come sleep at your house? And you make a call. You say yes or you say no. And it's just, and that is how it works. That is 100% how what I just described. And Ms. Charlie, if I'm wrong, you please correct me.
That's absolutely right.
Okay, so I'm just saying,
absolutely.
that's how it goes down. So when we say they're understaffed, but at the same time, that is how it works especially when it happens over the weekend. And most times, and let's just get this straight, most times people get paid on the weekend on a Friday. And that's most of the times a lot of arguments and things happen because of finances. And money is funny. Things going to pop off and the kids get caught up in the middle. 100%. And that's where you get most of your calls, is when that type of situation happens. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I'm glad Mr. Arling, you was able to co-sign with me on that one, that I'm not too far off.
Oh no, no, I don't believe there's a great deal of negative intention to when these things happen. And it is just it happens, and you think, how in the world, whose bright idea was it to put this child in this environment? Look around you and you immediately see this is not the right environment for this child. But then you say, well, I guess then you find out, because you don't know anything either in the beginning of a case. Then you say, oh, I see, this was one of those middle of the night deals, and they just put this child in a place because it needed a bed. But at least we get to move him now.
Right. And that happened to be the family that answered the phone. And it could be, they could have called. I remember our first call, I think it was 4 kids, and our house wasn't even set for 4 kids. We didn't even know we was approved. So we was still waiting for them to tell us we was approved to be foster parents. We went through the class, we did everything, and then all of a sudden we got a call like, hey, we got 4. I said, my wife, she just said it, 4 girls. We got a call saying we got 4 girls, and we're like, well, our house is not set for 4 girls. and we're not even approved. They're like, oh, you're approved. Like, what? Nobody told us. Nobody told us. So it's like, okay. So Miss Arlene, I got we're gonna get ready and bring another guest on the stage, and
Great.
and so if he's ready, he's down there. I know he's down there waiting. So we're gonna get him up here. And so give me 1 second. We're gonna bring him up on the stage. And give me 1 second. Here we go. All right, we know what time it is, and Walt Talks come up on the stage. Hey, Walt, what's up, man? How you doing? I can't hear you. Well, I know. You gotta take it out there and unplug it, maybe. Still can't hear you. Nope. I don't know what it is. Nobody wants to talk to us today. Still can't hear you. Nope. Yeah. Come out, come back in. You're gonna bring him. We're gonna take him off. I don't know what it is today. Nobody wants to come out. So everybody coming up and can't hear. So that's it's funny because when you do it 1,000 times and you can hear the person, but then when it's time to go live and be up on the stage, it's not working. But it's all good. We'll get him back up here and see real quick. Is it working? Can you hear us? I can't hear you. So I would say unhook the whole headset and unhook the whole headset. But it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So, but I apologize for that, Miss Darlene. But yeah, so it is unfortunate, and we did go through. So for those, and I remember you being our CASA worker because of kids we had in our house, and I know you stood up for. And made some great recommendations, and you would listen. And that was one of the things we really liked about working with you, because you would listen to us, mm-hmm. And because your street cred, as you said, the other people, when we got to the courthouse, they like, oh, that's the Jacksons. Okay, yeah, here come the Jacksons. So, mm-hmm. And they like, okay, because we were almost like no nonsense. We weren't going to play the game. And you're right. You get a caseworker that comes in and straight out of college, don't have any kids, mm-hmm. Got a master's degree and a whole lot of student loan, and had no clue what they was getting themselves into. Right. And we're sitting there trying to educate them on how this works. And I remember having a couple of people come to our house, and it was like, okay, here you go, and let us educate you a little bit on not how much, we know you got the school and we know you have the job and you do have a lot of, but it was more like there's a better way to do your job in a way that don't make it hard if you listen to us, and we'll help you get there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yes. I had the same experience with, and I would say, if we get a calendar out, we can resolve this issue, because the DHHR worker wanted to move the child because the foster parent job, she was a nurse. Her schedule conflicted with the biological parents who did not work. And it's like, I said, I can get you a schedule that you can then work with the biologicals, and she will keep the schedule. So that's what we need to do, not move this child. This child. Yeah. That would be debate, and that worked out, because overwhelmed person, I guess, didn't know what to do. So we'll just move the kid. That's the easiest way. And that was not an easy way. Not for that child.
Yeah. So no, and I'm looking at what Kamaria says here. Yeah, that was fun. Let me break you in real quick. Yeah. And that's how they come to the houses. Like, let me tell you how this is going to be. And it's funny because, like you said, you're talking about schedules. So both me and my wife, we worked. So we had a full-time job. So not only did we get the kid in, we had to find daycare for them. Or if they were in school, we had to, get them, go through the school. I mean, a lot of people don't realize you got to take them to the doctors. You got to take them to the dentist. You got all of these things. I mean, as if they were your child. Those are the things that you're going to do. But then when you do have a parent that don't work, like you say, they're not working. Yeah. And they're like, it don't line up with their schedule. I'm like, what's your schedule? You don't have a job. Yeah. I mean, what is your schedule that you can't be here? But again, you don't get to bash them or whatever. You just gotta, And what you're talking about then, it's just to educate anyone who don't know, is when they get those, the parents still have some rights to get visits. So you're setting up visitation. So now you might be the foster parent, but the biological parents get their visitation. They get their week or it might even be 2 hours at a mall or 2 hours at something. And now you're taking this kid to the mall on the weekend or whatever to give them their 2 hours with their birth parent. And then you're like a hawk. You got to sit there and watch the whole thing, make sure nothing's inappropriate, nothing. So it gets tough. And I know for you as a CASA worker, but as a parent too, we had our moments. So let me get Walt back up on the stage and see if we can hear him now. Hold 1 second. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead. Welcome.
So my rookie card is going to be worthless by the time it's all said and done, but thank you for your patience. Hello, Darlene. How are you, ma'am?
Good to meet you.
Jack, I wish I could tell you I know what's going on, bro, but clearly I don't, man. So I thought I had it going. So again,
it's all
this
good.
Conversation is breaking my heart, man. I mean, like you this is something that the average person is not even aware is going on, you know? And I mean, salute to both of you, because you guys are plugged in and deep in the game, and you know what's going on, and I'm sure you're teaching other people, but we're talking about real lives and real kids here. So
yeah.
I salute you both. I salute you. I salute you both.
Yeah.
I salute you both. I don't know how you do it. I really don't.
Well, Bill and Kamaria, they did it. They really did the heavy lifting, and
wow.
Amazing people. You guys know what I think of you, and we were all together in the courts. We were all together, but you all were in the trenches 24/7. I just came to visit, so I didn't do the heavy lifting.
Wow.
So, Darlene, I've heard a lot about you, so I'm sure you did some heavy lifting.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about you, so I haven't had the pleasure, but until now, so I know you definitely played your part. So I salute you for that.
Is, like I say, we looked at it as a team, and we went in there, and when everybody did their part, I mean, like I say, it's the best interest of the child, and because of. And I'm loving it that you said it. I'm gonna use it for you now because of your street cred. Sometimes, even though that wasn't your child, because we had other kids in the house, and it wasn't Darlene's case, but she knew that we was having issues, maybe reaching the caseworker or whatever, and we'll say, hey, when you're in the court and you see so and so, can you tell them? The Jackson's trying to reach you, so you might want to call them, whatever. And she would do that, and that was huge, because the thing is, you're like I said, you can't go in there bossing people around. You can't go in there saying this is, and you're trying to make, you're trying to get people on your side. You know what I'm saying? You want the more people you got on your side to help you get whatever you want. This is what I want. I mean, we were talking to judges, we're talking to lawyers, we're talking to caseworkers and all. And like I say, the pool was real small. So it's not like it's a whole bunch of people, but at the same time, you didn't want to cross any one of them, because if you cross one on this case, it might affect you on the other case. So you had to try to play the game and keep the game played all the way across. And because the area was small, you run into these people in the mall, you run into them, you're trying to live your regular life, and you're crossing these same people, and it's like, hey,
that's
what's
the
up?
guy.
Yeah. So, you try, and you didn't know when you was going to get your next call. And now all of a sudden, the same person that you was, against is now the guardian ad litem for the kid that you have.
Wow.
So you had to try to juggle it, but you stood your ground, and you say, hey, it was about business, and we're going to keep it professional. And it wasn't, and it was never personal. The only personal part of it was the kid. We got to make sure this kid is taken care of. And it didn't matter. And I know Darlene could contest to it, but it didn't matter what color they were, what sex they were. We didn't look at the situation. We didn't bash the parents, I mean, it was just one of those, if they get their rights or they get visitation, we're going to be there and we're going to give them whatever because my whole thing, and my wife, and she could say right there, this is your rope. You got the rope. You can either pull yourself back into this child relationship or you can hang yourself with that same rope. Unfortunate, but that is your rope. And we're going to do our part. So, it wasn't for us to make a judgment call on them because they have already been through enough. The stuff that they were going through was now, did we make something in our mind? I know I did. I'm a human. And I'm sitting there like, there's no way in the world. But at the same time,
you never know.
You never know. And
grace of God might, and you try to remember that because sometimes you do think, what the
what am I doing here?
So as Kamaria say, you got the rope, but I'm taking notes. And that was that was it because everything was jotted down. I mean, it could even be, and Walt, I'm just letting you know, and people that's watching, you could be at the playground with the kid. And if you're not interacting with that kid, like out there having fun and pushing them on the swing or whatever, that stuff was going down on paper. That was being noted. That because this is your 2 hours with this kid you haven't seen in a week or 2 weeks, and you're not even paying any attention to the kid. Like, what attention are you giving to this kid?
Documentation beats conversation every
100%. The pen was always mightier than the sword. Because of the fact that it's like we're noting what, and it wasn't, again, it's the facts. It wasn't about trying to get you in anything. It's like, because you could say, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing to get my kid back. Okay, yeah, but you're not even active in the kid's life. They're right here.
But they may be doing with all that they know how to do.
100%.
So so that's another frustrating part.
But here's the things, and that, like Darlene was saying and earlier, and I know you might have heard it. Well, there are programs, and there are things that people can actually go through, and a lot of people won't take the programs. They won't go to the how do you learn to be a parent? How do you learn to be a better parent or whatever? Because I would say, for me, I had to go through multiple classes. I mean, class after class after class.
I was just about to say, you said something when we were talking to Delbert, and you said to be a foster parent, you had to do all of these things, jump through all of these hoops, and as you should. But to be a parent, all you need to do is have sex.
100%.
And I mean, it's when you put it in that perspective. I mean, when you boil that soup down to the bone and put it in just the simplest terms, man, that's just not crazy. But it's amazing that when you put it in that perspective, it's just like, wow, and it's true. Yeah. Because and this is in no way at all a comparison, but I've rescued animals before, and I remember them coming out to my house, and like you said, man, as a parent, unfortunately, you can be as dysfunctional as you want to be, and unless somebody steps in and saves and helps the child or assists the child, that kid could live in that dysfunctional state for years. And a lot of times that parent has lived in that state. And that's why they don't know what they're supposed to do, because hurt people hurt people. And it's just weird, man. I mean, it's just like, and if I'm not sitting here and talking to you about this, and I'm not in the system, it doesn't really affect me, and it's just like, man, I'm learning so much. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. And it's so many different areas. I mean, there's so many different areas that it could be, like, to say something, what I did learn, and Darlene, again, I don't want to take Darlene is the guest on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. We don't want to take anything from her.
No.
And then the fact that they had a program that you went to, and I appreciated that, was more the program you was running was more for the men, but there was a program for the women, and that was court ordered. So they had to have those 32 weeks, or they wouldn't even have an option or opportunity to get back with their kid if they didn't complete if I'm getting it right.
Right.
Okay.
It depended upon the abuse. Sometimes it was a spouse, sometimes it was a parent, and sometimes it was a child.
Right.
but the court would not release them. And sometimes it was in lieu of jail time that would come to this class.
Mm.
And
That's a
so
great
there's a pretty big
motivator.
stick. And of
Yeah.
course, there were court reports that went from me to the judges again. There I am again, talking to the judge. Yeah, I'm telling them. And I would tell that this was, first meeting with the men. By the way, anything you say in here is going to the judge.
Mhm.
So don't forget. Or forget, I don't care. Either way, works for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, the thing is, if you could be honest with them up front and just say, hey,
Yeah.
check it out. This is what's going to happen, regardless, and again, it is not personal.
No,
It's not personal. It's all business. I remember being a correction officer, so I'm just going to my correction officer world. I didn't know what anyone was in for.
Right.
I never knew, because it didn't matter what you was in for.
Right. These are the rules.
You have a time, and my job is to make sure you do your time, and if your job is to go through the 32 weeks and go through this program, it's not about, what did you do? And I'm not going to look at you any different than I'm looking at the next guy and the next person, because then you start, getting caught up in the case.
Picking and choosing.
But, and you're picking and choosing, because that case is worse, Now, the inmates had their own little rules. So if they found out what you was in for, it was a little different. And I'm sure when you was around that circle, Miss Darlene, if a person say, well, you abused your partner, that was different. But if you abused that kid, they probably looking at you different in that circle.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And to answer Kamaria, in our batterers intervention, the numbers that Brian and I kept on our 5 years of doing it, it was a 12% recidivism rate. 12. So we felt that was quite successful, because again, if you got a little violence out of anybody's life, how many children are affected by that?
Right.
And who really can count those numbers? But and some of the men I still know, in a way. And there's one young man had a child that he hadn't seen for, I think he hadn't seen him for 5 years, his biological child. And then he was in another relationship, and this woman was going to have a baby. And he was quite an intense fella. And he was in because he had hurt someone, put them in the hospital, broke their orbital bone, face, and so he was one of our guys. But he came over the other side, I have to say. And his child was born, and he told me, he called and had said, I have to miss class because I'm at Children's Hospital with my new baby, because the baby's having some trouble. And then when he came back, he said, I got to tell you, because I kept hearing your voice in my head saying some of the things. I mean, we were playing with each other, shall we say. So they couldn't shock me with any of their language.
Right.
That was fine. And so, he said, I heard you say, just shut up. And he said, and I did. And because I did that, they didn't kick me out of the hospital. Nobody got mad at me because I was getting frustrated. I wasn't getting answers. And he said, I heard your voice in my head. And I said, well, good. Now it needs to be your voice. And then you're there. Well, since he's got a business going, he's doing really well. He's been reunited with his other child. I mean, and that made my heart, it felt worth it, because it was an intense program, but you hold their feet to the fire, and every now and then somebody changes their mind. Well, and their heart. And that's a big deal.
So, Darlene, if you tell me a little about the program, the process, like what are they going through? What skills are they learning? What challenges are they facing? What are the accountability pieces that you guys are holding them to? So tell me about that.
So they were court ordered to come, and the courts kind of sometimes would dump them because into our program when it really wasn't quite the right fit, because they didn't know what else to do with them.
Okay.
So some of the people had been violent to their neighbor. But most of them were domestic.
Okay.
So that would be partner, a mother or child, and then the program was, first what is so they would be there for 32 weeks, but they were all revolving.
Okay.
So you used to have the group, and then one guy would graduate, and and a new one would come in. So they're all coming and going all the time. So the idea was to challenge their belief system.
Okay.
Okay, so first we would one week would talk about abuse, and what is abuse? What do you think abuse is? Well, it's hitting somebody. Well, is abuse yelling? It's like Bill was saying. So you're having a fight with your wife and the kid's in bed. So is that okay?
Right.
Is that cool?
Right.
Is that okay? And then some of the men would say, I remember when I was a kid and parents fighting. Well, that's when you really got good things, because the group itself was talking to each other about these experiences.
Right.
And then we had thinking errors. What's a thinking error? Well, it is, she made me mad. So she made me mad. I had the right to hit her. Right?
Wow.
But she made me mad. I mean, one guy said, she's like that little Taco Bell dog, yap, 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 yap. And I said, okay, Taco Bell dog. Okay, so you're the pit bull and I'm the dog catcher. Which one am I taking down? The flappy, yappy little one, or the big one that's got her head in his mouth? So, and one guy said, well, what could I do? She jumped on my back. Now, this guy's about 200 pounds, big guy. I said, man, she can take you down. She must have been a big girl if she could take you down. And he's like, well, no, she's 105. And all the other guys laughed. Well, that's a learning thing for him. He had to hear himself say something pretty stupid, and he had to get laughed at. He had to see that in a different way. So the real gold in the group was trying to have them talk to each other and think about it different. Now, there were some people that, there's a couple of them that had been in jail 7 years, had gotten out, had gone and done something again, and they're back. And some of them, after they had been incarcerated for a longer period of time, I wondered if there was any hope, quite frankly.
Wow.
But
so tell me, what part? How do drugs and alcohol play into this?
Well, that's interesting, because that would sometimes be maybe an excuse. Okay. I was drunk. That was just the beer. That was just that was just, I was too high. Well, okay. And then you need to work on that problem.
You need to work on that problem.
Because if that is going to allow you to harm this person that you love, how does that work? And what are you doing to your kids meanwhile? How is this really affecting you? So, I mean, we had some of the guys were on Suboxone. It's a substitute for heroin. So they were on a program.
Okay.
And what's the name of the drug? I don't remember.
I'm thinking back in the day, it used to be methadone for heroin, but it's something else that's probably a derivative of that. So it gives you that feeling without giving you that drug. Yeah,
and they had to go and get it, and they got tested when they went to get that drug, and things like that. So that we would call an excuse for bad behavior, and so we would not.
But it may be it's an excuse.
Yes.
But if somebody has a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and lacks coping skills,
right,
it can see it as an excuse, but it also can be a valid reason. Not saying it's legitimate,
right,
but it could be a valid reason. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Absolutely agree. Okay. Therefore, we need to get working on. You need to go to AA.
Right. There we go.
You need to go to NA. Absolutely. And so if they brought that up, that would be a recommendation to the court that in addition, and they would have to then, if that was a condition, which is what we would insist upon, they couldn't come back to group until they had signed up and brought their paper from AA to the meeting to make sure they'd done it. And if they didn't come to my meeting, they went back to jail.
But if you go to the other side of that coin, the child that's born to a mother who was addicted and conceived with a mother and father that had addiction problems, then that kid is in the system and the cycle starts all over again.
Yes.
And so I mean, like, I don't know, like, you can identify the problem, but I don't know what the fix is. I mean, this is tough.
But see, even with that, Walton, we talked about it in the last show and too, because a lot of those kids are labeled even when they go in. So if they're already, like I say, if they're already under addiction from the birth mother, birth father, you know, they're already looked at as at risk. They're going to be at risk. They're going to have something. Something's going to come out of this, and you know. But as a foster parent or another parent that's maybe going to adopt, that's part of those records that we say you get the whole file, get the whole kit, and say, okay, so now you start looking at it. So you as a foster parent, or especially those who are adopting, so fostering to adopt. So your plan is I'm fostering, but the plan is to maybe adopt a kid, that you get the whole file and you start being more proactive about how you're going to, because you know these things are going to manifest themselves. You know they're going to show up because what they've been exposed to while they were in the womb, that eventually it's gonna come up. And if you can learn more about the parents, it helps too. Because like I say, when you're taking them to the doctor and they're asking for their medical history, it's not your medical history. It's their medical history. So you need to, if you can, get that information about the birth mom and get that information about the birth dad, because if there's diabetes, all kinds of other things that might come up that you might experience with the child that you have, because of the fact that their parents had those same issues or the grandparents had those issues. So it's a lot of digging into the research that you have to go through to get as much information as you can about the kid, because there's nothing worse excuse me, sitting in the doctor's office and they're asking the questions and you'd be like, well, let me tell you, he's a foster. I don't know. I don't know about this and I don't know about that. And I'm saying there's nothing worse, because you're sitting there and you're not trying to put the kid on the spot. But and it's like, you know, it's like you want to tell them on the side before you go back there, I'm a foster parent. This is that. I don't have none of that information, or I give you what I got, and we can go from here and we can work. So and it's good to have the pediatrician, a normal pediatrician, just one that you go to, so we're not bouncing them around, because the way it works is they get the state insurance, and it's really who's next. It's who's the next doctor. It's not really you can go to your own, but because we had a good relationship with our own kids' pediatrician, we were able to get our foster kids in with that same person, and they would take care of them and look at them and make sure they were okay.
So think about this, both of you, as a person who's a novice in this field. So let's not even talk about a foster kid, right? Let's talk about a kid who has a parent or two parents, maybe that's in a dysfunctional situation, that hasn't made it to the system. At least if a foster kid shows up with you, Big Jack, foster parent, you're going to have that conversation. But if a parent shows up to the doctor in a dysfunctional but normal situation, for lack of a better word, they're not going to give the doctor any information, because that could implicate themselves. They will implicate themselves. So just imagine how bad that is. And by the time the kid gets help, or maybe his first introduction to help may be getting arrested for something that they have, I'm not going to say any control over, but no control over, just basically because, I mean, that part is just, because if you look at the 6 o'clock news, everybody ought to go to jail, right? Oh, they did this, they ought to go to jail. But nobody looks at the backstory. Nobody looks at the esoteric reasons for this thing's happening. We all look at the exoteric, but nobody looks at the esoteric, the meaning behind the meaning. Like, what is really going on? And I would imagine that the judges, when you see a judge making a decision on someone's life, as you both have seen, I'm sure, especially you, Darlene, you know, you got to think they have to take all of that into consideration. And that's a thankless job, man. I wouldn't want that
Right.
job for anything.
And the thing is, you
Yeah.
want them to take all that in consideration. But I
Sure.
remember a case, and like I say,
Mhm.
not saying the kid's name, where
Mhm.
they rolled it. They rolled it to the father. So the father took all the heat. He took
Okay.
all the heat, and he went to jail. Okay, all right.
Mhm.
But the mother didn't take anything. But the mother was the number one player in this whole thing. So you sent the kid back home with the abuser. If you want to
Wow.
look at it that way, it's like you sent the
Yeah.
kid home with the abuser and put the other one in jail because he didn't want the mom to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna take
Yeah.
the weight, but the child is still, and that's where again, it's so many people that's in this child's life that we
Mhm.
do fail the kids sometimes because this
Yeah.
kid go to school but no one said anything. So you tell me the
Right.
teacher never said anything.
Right.
When they go to the doctor and they get a physical or checkup, no, the doctor never says anything.
Mhm.
When they're playing sports or whatever, and the coaches never say anything. I mean, it's just so many different. You're the neighbor. You're sitting right next to this. You hear what's going. You know how
Mhm.
apartment walls are, townhouse walls, or whatever.
Yes. Yes.
You seeing it. You see this kid out in the street at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
Something ain't right.
Yeah.
This ain't right. You know, this kid should be in school, but yet they're out in the street at 3 in the morning.
Yes. They're in the
Then
morning. Yeah.
those are little issues that. And
Yeah.
you say, I don't want to be a snitch, and I don't want to do this. I
No,
don't want to
but
do that.
that's yeah.
But then
Yeah.
you're helping create.
Right.
You know yeah. So I want
You're
to make sure.
enabling the situation. Yes.
100%. So I want to recognize real quick. So we got Chit Chat down under down there. So hello and thank you for being in here. Kamaria Jackson is still out there. Cindy Lifestyle and more. I know Sharon Jackson was here. Captain Johnson, Denise Jackson, The Source, Gen X Effect, and all of this. So I just want to thank Deborah PH, Els Endeavor, everyone that's been here on Iron Sharpening Iron Show. I know the conversation got deep, and I didn't want to miss the people that were sitting in the chat, but. But it's like you say, and the thing is, if you didn't know, like if you didn't know what was going on, if no one said anything, they would be with those. Not saying there's nothing wrong with being with your birth parents, but you would be going through a sad situation, like a lot of kids we talk about with school. That's the only meal they're getting,
Right.
is the lunch they get at school.
Right.
They're not getting anything else.
Right.
They're not getting it when they get home. I mean, but when you see that kid come to school, principals, counselors, teachers, and they got the same clothes on they had yesterday and the day before, you have to have a question. You know, what's the question attitude? Hey, is everything okay? Or if you see them, scarfing down the lunch or sneaking other lunches and stuff like that,
Right.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry, or falling asleep in the middle of class, which is possible. It's like, are you getting enough rest at home? And Miss Darlene, I don't want to overspeak you, so please go.
No, well, there is a program in Martinsburg that started, I believe it's still ongoing, that the police are supposed to notify the school if they have had to visit the home of the child for domestic.
Right.
So that the school knows that there's a reason little Johnny's tired and falling asleep. So they're supposed to do that. But, again, personnel, it's confidentiality, and there's all sorts of, you can imagine just the logistics of it. So who do you know, what cop went on call? When did the report get in? Did it get in time for them to figure out what school district the kid's in, what grade they're in, what school to contact, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the schools are supposed to be reporters, but, just because the kid's dirty, for example, is that reason enough to make a phone call? Well, I'm sorry. Yeah. If they're that bad that it smells bad, there's probably something really dysfunctional at home.
Right. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. So it's unfortunate that any kid would have to go through that at any age. I mean, we've had them as young as, months. I mean, I want to say it was like 3 months old. I think we had a set of twins and a brother. But they just don't know when they're going to come in and why they're going to come in. we get the call in the morning or in middle of the day or whatever, 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's just saying, hey, we got these kids, and can you keep them? And it's like, shoot. And you don't ever want to say no, but you can't always say yes. And that's where the sad part comes, because you don't want to say no, but you can't always say yes. And that's the thing. If anyone out there thinking about being a foster parent, and we talked about that before, and I know what you said without being, but well, for my own kids, it's different. I put the hustle in so I can make sure they got a roof over their head,
absolutely,
and clothes on their back, and food on the table, and all of that. But when you got foster, you still put in that same hustle. Those kids have, they almost have it better. Again, I said that because by rule or by law, they supposed to have their own bed. They're not supposed to share rooms. I mean, it's a lot of things that they can't do unless they're on their own sibling path.
Right.
So my house had to change because I didn't have.
So your kids, how many step in the room with your kids?
Your kids share a room? No.
Your
my boys would have to team up. Yeah.
That's my point, right?
So we putting a bunk bed in the room because we got
absolutely. I mean, you hear that story every day. Yeah. And then it's 4 brothers, and the girl got her own room because she was the girl. But me and my 4 brothers, we shared the bed and yada yada yada. You hear that story every day. And I mean, I'm talking about, I'm an only child, but I'm talking about in my family. I have cousins who's like, they doubled up. And that was it. Somebody had a pallet on the floor, and somebody had the bunk beds and yada yada yada. And guess what? That was good parenting. And then as a foster parent, that doesn't play. It doesn't fly. So I get it.
It flies, they're yours. You couldn't do it.
Right. You couldn't do it as a foster parent. Right.
And the biggest thing, one of the other biggest things I learned was to respect the person's their items, their things, whatever they're bringing with them. Because we had a child where she had these cowboy boots. It was female, of course, the little girl. She had these boots, and these boots was too small. It didn't go, but they was the boots that she got from her birth mom before she was put in. And I'm like, so like, you can't wear them boots. And like, why can't I wear these boots? And like, so I appreciate my wife being there to help me, so like, but they were too small. Like,
but that's what she had, bro. That was her. That was it, because
that was her
we take for granted. I mean, that's her stuff. Yeah. And like you said, they leave the first parent, the first foster family, foster home, excuse me, and they come to you, and everything they have is sometimes in the trash bag.
100%.
And that's it.
That's it.
And that's it. And not in the same vein, but sort of in the same vein, when you go on the other end of the spectrum and you're talking about, we need to move some of these encampments out of the neighborhood. Hey man, you take a person that's homeless on the street, and like, why won't they go to the shelter? Because that's everything they own.
Yeah.
They are traveling with it. I mean, like, that's living a minimalist lifestyle involuntarily, And you think about, as a foster parent, man, you got stuff that you're not even thinking about using. You haven't even used all the stuff that you have.
Right.
And that's all of us, so we just take it for granted. So I don't know the answer, but I tell you what, man, you got to look at this thing differently. I mean, a lot of people do. And then let's say this: how many people you see a kid falling in class dirty, yada yada yada? Kids are cruel to start with. Hey man, you don't know what this kid is going through. Mm-hmm. So I just, man, you guys have opened my eyes over the last month.
Even the ones you think got it going on, even the ones you think they got it going on, it's like you don't know what they're going through.
You never know what people are going through.
And again, like I say, anyone that came in our house, and it's way different. It's a lot of programs that you just don't. I mean, there's an actual system. Mm-hmm. It's a respite program where a foster parent or adoptive parent might need a break. They just or it don't even have to be a break. They might had to go to court, or I just couldn't find a babysitter where I just need you to watch them for a couple of hours or a couple of days or whatever. So we've had that. They had to go to a funeral where they didn't want to take this child, so they asked. And we've had it. So it's whatever the situation is. But when they come in your house, you don't, in that situation, and I was just throwing this one out there, but in that one is you try to work with the foster parent, because they're coming to you just for this temporary time. So you don't want to
What do
change
you
all the
need?
rules and all of this and that.
Right.
But I remember one of our respites where the young lady, you know, we had a little girl, and she was more, it was funny because I got up, she was talking to my wife, but I guess I had already went to work, and she was like, well, where's the daddy guy? Because it's like she saw me when she went to bed, but I wasn't there when she got up.
Right.
It's like, where did he go? And she's like, oh, he's at work. Like, oh, okay. Because in their mind, that was normal. You know, there's the mommy and the daddy, and where's the daddy guy? And even in her conversation, we had to, in that situation, we had to report some things that, you know, because this little lady was afraid of the dark, and she didn't want the door closed, you know, on the bedroom. And it wasn't that she was afraid of the dark; she didn't want the door closed. And we were like, you know, why da 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 da. Well, we found out that the reason she was part in the system was that they were locking her in the closet. So when that door closed, that was just a big closet for her.
That was a trigger for her,
And so those are the things that we learn, and those are the things you try to get you on and say, okay, so we don't close this door and this one, you know. So, you know, we had one, he would get out the bed, we wake up, he in the dog bed. Like, what are you doing? He would climb out of the regular bed and go, but it was just comfortable to him. And it was like, we'll get him, put him back in the bed. But if we look back around, he go back to the dog bed. And the dog will move out the way.
So think about these situations, right? You can take that and probably apply that to a lot of the parents of these kids coming into foster care.
Oh, yeah.
Because hurt people, right?
Yeah.
So there's a very good chance that they experience the same thing, if not, I mean, because that's what you do. I mean, you raise them how you know what you know. Yeah, you know what you learn how to do. Yeah.
So my mom beat me, so I beat my kids. It worked for me. It worked for you.
And I mean, like, man, that's just, we, you know, as adults, especially our generation, Jack, you know, it's like, oh man, well, God bless the dead. I used to tell my mother all the time, though, hey, look, by the day's standards, you ought to just be coming home from the penitentiary. because and I deserved it. Hey man, but my mother, you know, she did not. I mean, hey, look, understand. She was quick with the hand, you know. If she tell you something, if she called you from the other room, you better acknowledge the fact that she called you, you know. And it wasn't even a mean-spirited thing. It was just like, that's what it was, you know. Yeah. And my daughter, if I looked at her, I mean, it was like, you know, just look at her, you know. My mother, oh man, I mean, I believed in my soul that my mother she brought me into this world, she would take me out, you know. Yeah. And I mean, and I don't even feel like I was abused as much as, like, you know, she and here I am as a 61-year-old adult, and I'm like, it worked, but that was a different time, different place. But there's a thin line, because if you're in the grocery store and you see a kid acting out now, and the parent says something to them, I'm like, man, that's kind of harsh on the kid, right? But then part of me is like, oh Lord, let me have him. Can I please have him? You know, he's laying out on the floor. Can I please have him? Let me have him. I got him. Let me, you know. So it's just like there's a thin line between that level of love and discipline and abuse. And I'm sure the psychiatrists out there will probably tell me I'm crazy, but there's a thin line of demarcation between the two of those. So
and that's where foster parents, foster workers, case workers, they all get into when that line is crossed. And sometimes it could be not. Sometimes it could just be, like I say, when you get a person that a neighbor that call on a person, once the case is open, they have to go through the process. And once they start the case, and Darlene, you can tell us better than anybody, when that case is open and you get the call and they say, hey, we got this kid, you know, you hoping that everything that you're hearing is not true. That these are good parents, they just got caught up in a situation, and let's get them back with their kids. But it don't always roll like that.
So Darlene, you said there's a 12% recidivism rate, correct? Is that what you said?
On the batter intervention
On the
program.
batter intervention
Yes.
program. So let me ask you this. You and I apologize. I may have missed this at the beginning of the show. How many years have you been in this?
Well, the batter's intervention I did for 5 years.
But I mean, as a CASA and
CASA, that was 7 years.
So you've had enough time. Have you had anyone come in that you seen come through the program and decided, hey, you know what? This is what I want to do with my life. I want to do what you do, Darlene Truman. I mean, this is what I want to do. Have you experienced that yet?
Yes.
How does that feel?
Well, it's pretty cool, because you hope that is the idea, is that pass it on. Let's widen this pond out and get a few more fish in here, so we can, because that's the idea. We want people to quit being ignorant in the true sense.
Right.
In the true sense, just chill a little bit, think before you speak.
Right.
Stop the chatter and think a little bit, and then it's going to be better for you too. Your life will improve, believe it or not, when you stop being such a jerk. Not only your kid's going to be happy, and your partner's going to be happy, you're going to be happy.
You're going to be happy.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to be happy. You got to face that. You got to
face it. And
you got to put that
and
mirror
you
up.
can change it.
Yeah.
It's up to it's in you. You can do it. And these were not bad people. Oh, maybe one.
Right. I mean, I'm sure you got one or two that's bad, but in general, once you give people the coping skills.
They didn't mean, and they would, after we got to know each other a little bit, they would say, they'd come to me and say, what do you think? This is what happened. This is what happened last week. And I'm just wondering, what would you say to that? And so then we can work on it. Well, let's open up to the group. What do you think? What do you think? How can we do? Is there a way we could handle this better? And I'd even role play with them. It would be funny because we laughed a lot. Sometimes, so I'd say, this one guy would say, well, I've got this now. I got it. And so I'd say, okay, let's role play. I'm your partner here. And so I'd say, so how come, hey, honey, how come you were late? And he goes, boom. What do you mean? And then he'd say, do you know her? Well, I never met her at all.
Exactly. That's that button she pushed on me every time.
It was just, I just had heard him talking.
That's a trigger,
So it was an easy, because you just listen for a little bit to somebody talking, and you go, oh, well, that's that one's trigger. Oh, well, that one's trigger. Huh.
And it's funny not to go in that direction, but your spouse or your partner knows the button. And no one else can push that button. No one else. It would roll over it would go right over top of your head, no matter how many times someone else said that to you. You come to work late every day, and your boss say, why you late every day? But you get home and hear, why you late? Boom.
It's like to the moon.
When I got to tell them, I say, that's your button, though. That's your button. You're responsible for your button.
But that's the thing, knowing your trigger.
Yes.
Knowing your part, because the quicker you get to it, the quicker you can get through it. You can't avoid it. You have to accept it for what it is and learn how to cope and get through that. And once you do that, you can, and that's anything. I mean, that's like even if you're on a diet and you know the ice cream is your weakness. It's like, okay, babe, you can't bring ice cream. You can't bring Haagen-Dazs, rum raisin in here because one spoonful isn't enough, and one is too many, and 10 isn't enough.
Exactly.
1 tablespoon is too many, and 10 isn't enough. So so you gotta know your triggers. So
what you trying to call me out? Are you trying to call me out? Is that what you're doing?
I'm really talking about myself, man. I'm really talking about myself. Yeah,
you're
a Haagen-Dazs guy too. Yeah, that rum raisin, man. I mean,
I'm not a rum raisin person, but ice cream is definitely.
Oh man, ice cream in general. Yeah. And then you try to get the carb free, the fat free, and then you just eat more of it. Yeah. So you go to the frozen yogurt, you just eat more, man. Hey man, yeah. I mean, every man. Hey, look, like Clint Eastwood said, a man must know his limitations.
Yeah.
And
I'm
ice
learning
cream is
them. I'm
definitely my
learning them.
weakness.
I'm
Yeah,
learning them. Well, Miss
ice cream is
Darlene,
my
I want to
weakness.
thank you for being on the show with us
Yes.
today. It's been a true pleasure, and thank you. Sorry we couldn't get your partner on today. I don't know what happened. You know, we had
Yeah.
a
Well,
Yes.
but what I'm gonna do, because I got her contact information and I have definitely booking slots, I'm gonna get her on because I know she has a different story to tell from her angle of in the system and all. And because it's not just about the month, it's always something that's going on.
Yes.
So I'll reach out to her and we'll get her up on the stage and
great.
as a guest on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. Walt, like I tell anybody, this man's
Hey.
like E.F. Hutton. When Walt talks, people listen. That's the E.F.
Man,
Hutton
I'm
over here.
learning so much, man. I mean, it's like I'm amazed that I got this far in my life without knowing these things. And
You're
it's
lucky.
impossible to know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, hey Jack, you know I resisted this all the way, man. But I appreciate you for inviting me in and allowing me to do this because I'm learning so much. Darlene, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely a special place in heaven for you and everyone of your in your tribe, so to speak. You know, there's doing God's work out there. So thank you so much for that. I really, really, really appreciate it, and thank you for the education. So thank you so much.
And darling, you have to tell your husband we're gonna have to get him on the show.
All right.
Musician.
I know he followed you and done a lot of things
He does.
more to be your I would say, but bodyguard in a sense to make sure that you're okay. But I would like to be able to talk to him and see his perspective on it. So I'll be staying in contact with you. So because it was a beautiful relationship we had when we were in there working. And it was one of those things where I'm so glad that the story didn't end with you and we were able to keep that conversation. We might not get to see what's going on with the kids, but we do get to see what's going on with the people that helped us, the workers and all of that. So, and Darlene, again, she's at the top. You know, she's on that, what they say, that Mount Rushmore type thing. She's one of those people. She made it fun, she made it interesting, and she was about business, and that helped us get through the process. So
you guys are great.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thank you, man.
All right, good to see you.
Yeah, it was good seeing you. Thank you again for being on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show.
Thank you so much.
Everyone out in the chat, I see Aquatic News Network is here, Cindy Lifestyle and more. Chit Chat Down Under. And Darlene, if you don't know, some of these people are from Australia, and I see the Philippines is out there.
Philippines, yes.
So they're from all over the world coming in here and listening and watching. So, and each and every other person, Sharon Jackson, Denise Jackson, Kamaria Jackson, Captain Johnson, and everyone else that's out there, the Source, Gen X Effect, and everybody else. If I miss anybody, it's not personal L's endeavor. I just want to say thank you. Y'all stay blessed, and I'm gonna play this little video before we roll out, and then we're gonna call it a night for the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. Have a happy Memorial Day weekend, and be smart, be safe, and remember those who served, and
salute
and the reason for the season. And we'll see you next time, which is Wednesday, the last show of the month. So until next time, thank you again. And we'll be talking to you all later. Big Jack spinning wisdom tonight.
Right.
Iron sharpens iron in the glow of the light. Life lessons dropping like rain on the sea, reminding everybody what it truly means. Grow and glow, together we rise, finding strength in each other's eyes. Lean on me and I'll lean on you. We'll build a world that's bold and true. Wall steps up, calm and steady as stone, a legend story in a voice of his own. Talks about battles, the scars he wears. It shows how the fight only makes you care. Grow and glow, together we rise, finding strength in each other's eyes. Lean on me and I'll lean small, but together we beam. So here's to the grind, here's to the climb. Every soul matters, it's our time. Yeah! Big Jackson Wall, they light up the air. Their words cut deep but show that they care. The stage is hot with truth flowing free. A bond of life for you and me. Grow and glow, together we rise, finding strength in each other's eyes.